you saw the glass half empty. Oh, your point of view is temporary. Is it fate by design? How you decide, or simply chance? Any way you believe, you'll always see how mysterious life can be. Trust your timing. Find joy in today. Let go of how you thought life would be. Trust your timing. You never know what is waiting. The memories you'll make. Wherever you are, no matter how far behind you feel. Oh, this life you live is always changing. Is it fate by design? How you decide, or simply chance? Any way you believe, you'll always see how mysterious life can be. Trust your timing. Find joy in today. Let go of how you thought life would be. Trust your timing. Days come and go, seasons make you grow. Life will surprise you wherever you go. You'll love and lose. Time will heal your wounds. Take another step into the unknown. Trust your timing. Find joy in today. Let go of how you thought life would be. Trust your timing.
Yeah, she tried to do it, but then nobody came. I remember she did it for, well, Reverend Jacqueline was doing it with the adults. I remember, and I remember she did an announcement, but she did said, look, we've been doing some wonderful vespers. Nobody comes. We're gonna send such announcements. It sounded like a good idea, and it was wonderful. I think I went once or twice, but it's hard to make it a huge but it was that one that was meant to be.
Starting ministry was here physically, and the word and the old was full, and they were encouraged to make something, go find a way to make worship.
That's interesting.
We don't have them. It's the usual.
I'm so sorry to go to that part. I love that. Just the space. Yeah, so they're. How does that work these days? Well, but they might for like
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. I am Nicole Fitzhugh. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. We are glad that you're with us this morning here at First Unitarian Church of Oakland. We are committed to becoming an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, and anti-oppressive religious community. Woohoo! You are all welcome here. If you are new here, we invite you to fill out a Newcomer Connect card online. So you may even find one in the back of a seat in front of you. There is a QR code on the card, and you can also use the link on our website, or if you want to, you can go to the greeters table in the foyer or in our social hall, Venti Hall, to leave us your contact information. Doing this helps us to help you explore what our community offers and find ways to participate. If you want to learn more about us, Emily Stoper, who is in the back in the sound booth, yay, waving her hand. Emily Stoper will be holding a 10-minute orientation for newcomers at the end of today's service, right down here in front of the pulpit, to answer your questions. Welcome and good morning again. So for our land acknowledgement, we acknowledge the land and the ancestral people of this land, the Lishan Ohlone peoples. Our church, institutions, and homes are occupying their ancestral lands, Hushin. We acknowledge that the lands were stolen from the Ohlone peoples, who have an ancestral relationship with this land, the plants, the animals, the water, for millennia, continuous through the present day. Ohlone people are still here. We also recognize that the spirits of the Ohlone ancestors are present. We stand in solidarity with all Indigenous people and their right to self-determination and justice. We commit toward working to the healing of intergenerational trauma, theft, and dispossession that Native peoples continue to face. We celebrate the joyful rematriation and restoration of ancestral lands with local Lishan Ohlone people. We encourage you to learn more about the confederated villages of the Lishan Ohlone peoples. And on this slide is a link to the Sogoroyote Land Trust, where you can get more information about that. Thank you.
Peace is present right here and now, in ourselves and in everything we do and see. Every breath we take, every step we take can be filled with peace and joy. Together we say, peace is possible. How do you go about loving your enemies? I think the first thing is this. In order to love your enemies, you must begin by analyzing self. Together we say, Black Lives Matter. We light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the divine spark in all of creation, of the power of love to heal what is broken and to be grateful for life's blessing each day. We gather today to receive the blessings of trust. May the relationships in this room remind us that we do not have to depend only on ourselves. May the quiet we share help us hear and renew our faith in that still, small voice inside. With our hearts open, let us begin. In one voice, come, let us worship together. A friend of mine told me of a dilemma that he is facing, and I volunteered to help him think about it. This story is uncomfortable for me to say, and may be uncomfortable for some of us, but I will report what it is. He's been invited to attend the wedding of a close friend as a sort of best man, but from his perspective, the moral problem is that the wedding is between two women. His initial idea is that he should accept the invitation, and then, during the speech making at the reception, he includes something about his opposition to gay marriage. In preparation for meeting with Anthony, I found myself thinking a lot about the issue, and my thoughts were essentially about rhetoric, the rhetoric of how I could persuade him to my correct views. What about this or that analogy? What about this passage in the New Testament? What about this argument that he was being hypocritical? Fortunately, I caught myself. Maybe my Quaker background kicked in and I realized that I would be a pretty poor listener. I remembered a phrase that Reverend Laurel said in a sermon, that we need to be trustworthy. I need to be worthy of Anthony's trust. Well, he needs to know that I am not there to persuade him. I am there to listen to him. If I have any skill, I might be able to help clarify his values. He needs to be able to feel safe with me to express his emotions, doubts, contradictions. And I need to be open with my own. I need to place our relationship above my desire to persuade. I also thought about the Buddhist phrase, courageous effort. I used to think that that was about physical danger, but here it might require courageous effort to simply be still, to listen to Anthony without a campaign of persuading him. I'd like to change scale now from the interpersonal to the communal, how we can all find trust within the world that we live in. Here are the titles of 5 sermons. They were given around the same time last year. You might ask yourself, when were they given? Give me a minute and I will answer that. I received some emails in the week after the November election. One announcement from my Quaker friends and another from my Ignatian friends, but both said practically the same thing. Both called for an emergency prayer service. Both displayed an equivalence that didn't really ring true for me. Both said that we must share our feelings. Something didn't feel right. This didn't seem the most skillful thing to do after the election. Did faith or trust have any place here? Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all have a faith based on an ongoing conversation with God. What happened to that? I didn't attend either prayer service and took a little criticism for that. For a week or so, I sorted through some odd memories, including Father O'Hallahan. He once led my high school in a prayer that came awfully close to praying that we would defeat the dreaded St. Francis de Sales football team at our homecoming. That did not seem quite right, then or now, to place trust in our side defeating the other side, to have a faith that our side is the side of right. In my life, I've been guided by 3 traditions: Quaker, Ignatian, but I had forgotten the third one, Buddhist. What about the Buddhists? How did they respond to the election? I know the Insight Meditation Center in Redwood City, and so I listened to 8 Dharma talks that had been recorded in the week after the election, including the titles that I showed you. Amazingly, none of these Dharma talks ever even mentioned the election. How could these Buddhists be so out of touch with our urgent reality? Perhaps they are so out of touch in order to be so in touch. All of their talks were essentially about trust. The founder of that Sangha, Gil Fronsdal, had been scheduled to give talks on the 4 noble truths of Buddhism. Now, Gil has given over 5,000 Dharma talks. He can crank out the 4 noble truths in his sleep. But this time he changed it. He added an extra talk on trust because he understood that we can't even begin the path without trust. Quoting Gil, "What do we have confidence in? What do we have courage about? That it is possible to be free of the suffering that begins with reactivity in our minds and hearts. We are trying to meet all the pain in the world with a heart that is not reactive, not caught up in distress, hostility, and fear. Someone should learn how not to be caught by aversion and clinging. Someone should learn how not to be caught by fear. That someone is you. You are the one to do that work. Not to be passive, it is possible to be an agent of change without reactivity. It is possible to find an abiding, wonderful feeling, an experience of calmly being aware of this difficult world that we live in. In other words, peace is possible. A peace in the stillness that is open to us. During the same week as Gil's talk, Reverend Laurel gave her sermon after the election with the dangerously Buddhist title of Welcome Everything. In fact, reading and studying her sermon now, there's a lot of overlap with the 8 Dharma talks. They all talk about the need for trust. From Laurel, going forward, we need to avoid fear, isolation, exhaustion, disorientation. We need to restore trust, trusting ourselves, being trustworthy, and finding others who you trust. Both the Buddhists and Laurel talk about staying open. Just because you fear something doesn't make it true. She told us a Taoist parable with the refrain, maybe could be a blessing, could be a curse, just like the Buddhist titles, knowing, not knowing, predictions to presence. It can take courageous effort to welcome everything. Well, that was a sinuous path from Anthony to the election, to Quakers, Ignatians, and Buddhists, oh my, to Reverend Laurel's sermon. What did I learn from it? I learned that I really, really should have listened way better to Laurel's sermon the first time. It would have saved me from having to listen to all those Buddhists.
So I think today, maybe in the interest of time, instead of getting up and greeting one another, why don't you think for a moment about who or what you trust in your life, and then feel free to share it with someone who's around you. And then Susan, don't we have the pop-up choirs next? Why don't they come on up? And so let's just take a moment. I'll ring a bell for you to start thinking about trust, and then I'll ring a bell again when it's time for the choir to sing.
Got a trustworthy mom. Very nice. Everybody does. Leave them laughing.
Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break and all things can be mended, not with time as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally. Go. Extravagantly. Go, love unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break and all things can be mended, not with time as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally. Go. Extravagantly. Go, love unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you, and you, and you, and you, and you. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you, and you, and you, and you, and you.
That song reminds me of a poem that Mary Oliver wrote called Buddha's Last Instruction, where he said, "Make of yourself a light," before he died. So for our embracing meditation, I'd like to begin by lifting up Reverend Dr. Dorsey Blake. He was one of the professors at Starr King School for the Ministry. I think one of my best classes was one on Howard Thurman that he taught, but he died just this last Sunday. And he was the presiding minister at the Fellowship of All Peoples in San Francisco. Have any of you been there or heard about that? It was founded in 1944 by Howard Thurman, and it was the nation's first interracial, interfaith congregation. So there will be a memorial service there for him on March 22nd, and what I say is rest well, Reverend Dr. Dorsey Blake. I think you all know that yesterday was International Women's Day. So that is a global celebration of women's achievements and also some advocacy for gender equality. And this year the campaign theme is Accelerate Action, emphasizing the urgency of advancing gender equality. So for our joys and sorrows, our embracing meditation, I now invite you to speak out loud the names of those who you wish to memorialize or celebrate or remember. And for those of you joining us on Zoom, you can write what you would like to include in the chat, and I will read it out loud. Thank you. And embracing meditation.
Roberta Flack.
From the chat, my son Richard. And from our book on joys and sorrows today, Janet. Brian, who passed away this week, including his daughter and fiance. Janelle. Timon O'Connor, who is in the hospital recovering. Kamara and Sedona. Mary Rose for the recent loss of her mother. Layla Goldman as she goes through a big transformation in her life. And last thoughts of Daphne Parson, who left us last March, and she always said, all we need is love. And one more from the chat. Evelyn says, I'm very happy to see Marcy Avalon joining the service on Zoom today. So actually, let's take a minute and turn around and say hi to the folks who are on Zoom. Hello, you're with us in spirit. For all that has been spoken, and for all that remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, let us say together, we hold them in our care. Henri talked about peace in stillness. Let's now just take a moment to arrive here more deeply, more fully, noticing your body breathing in and out, aware of where you are, who's sitting around you. May all be safe, may all be well, may all know joy, may all be free. Take a moment to just be here now. I feel the presence not only of the people who are here today and with us on Zoom, but all of those who have been in this sacred sanctuary for many, 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 many years. Amen. Our next song, What Wondrous Love Is This? Would you please rise and join in singing? In June of 2022, I retired from my 11-year ministry, a wonderful, wonderful 11 years in Colorado, and I moved back home to the Bay Area. But I didn't feel ready to retire, and so when I heard that this congregation was looking to hire a contract minister to work half-time and to organize worship, I jumped at the chance. I applied. And then it was in August of 2023 that the board hired me to be your minister. And I don't know how many of you know I'm wearing my ordination stole. It was on October 5th, 2008, when this congregation ordained me to be a Unitarian minister. Well, when I came back, I learned that the congregation had been through a lot. There was the pandemic, there was the resignation of the former minister, and basically there was a sense of broken trust in the congregation. And because of that, I told you that my number one priority for last year was to earn your trust. So this was the topic of one of my first sermons, and so this morning I'd like to share it with you again. Some of you were there, some of you weren't, but I wonder how it strikes you now. First, though, I'd like to take a moment to put my message in the larger context of this challenging time, when many of us are horrified by the devastation of what's happening to our democracy, when our trust that our leaders will honor the Constitution and abide by the rule of law has been shattered. In this challenging time, we need one another more than ever. And it's all the more important for us to take care of ourselves, to cultivate our resiliency, and to gather in community like this and to engage in meaningful acts of resistance, both large and small, to what is happening in our country and in our world. So I believe in order to do this, we must be able to trust ourselves and to trust each other in this beloved community. So once again, here's my sermon. Who can we trust? My number one goal this year is to earn your trust. I want you to feel assured that my words and actions have integrity, that I will always be honest with you, and that I will try to be my best self. I've already warned you that I'm not perfect, that I will disappoint you, and I also know that you will disappoint me. But when we screw up, like if I screw up and I hurt your feelings, I want you to talk with me directly about it. Direct communication is probably one of the most important things to build a healthy congregation. So please understand, when I ask you to use direct communication, I'm not asking you to walk on eggshells. I'm not expecting that you never talk about me, because in my role here, I'm kind of a public figure. So it may be that in coffee hour, you comment casually to someone, "Wow, I think Laurel needs a haircut." Or, "I like that stole that she wore last week better than the one that she's wearing this week." That's okay, because actually casual conversation like this, I think, actually builds communal bonds. The American writer Kathleen Norris calls these casual, everyday conversations holy gossip. Because a congregation really is like a small town, so we know things about each other. We know who's pregnant, we know maybe who broke up, who began chemotherapy, whose dog died. These kinds of connections are important. They're kind of like the grout that holds together all of our broken pieces and all of the joys and sorrows in our lives. I think these days one of the conversations might be about, are people wondering what to do with their Tesla? If you have one, at least put something on it to show. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that I hope that we can feel safe and brave enough to talk directly with me and with one another. And that by staying in relationship, even when times are hard, and by staying as a member of this covenantal community, even when things don't go your way, that this is how we can grow a culture of trust. I will trust you, you will trust me, and you will trust one another. Again, not to be perfect, but to be well-intentioned and to know that each morning we wake up trying to do the best we can. When I was in law school, I took a class on negotiations. And in one of our exercises, we were paired up with another student and instructed to see whether we could negotiate a settlement between our clients. So each of us was given a list of all of the issues, and the issues were allocated a certain number of points. So for example, in a divorce case, if I agreed to give the other side the mountain cabin, that was a big ticket item, so that might give the person 25 points. But if it was something lesser, like who gets the large screen TV, that might be worth like maybe 1 point. So after an hour of negotiating, the class came back, and as it turned out, my partner and I were the only ones in the entire class who were able to come to a settlement. And we discovered that the reason was because we were the only pair who believed that what the other one was saying was true. We had talked about this at the beginning of our negotiation, and we decided to take a leap of faith to trust one another to tell the truth. And because of that mutual trust, we were able to give and take in good faith and reach a compromise that would avoid having to go to trial. I thought back on this years later when my supervising attorney gave me an evaluation of my first year as a litigator in a large Oakland firm. He told me that my work product was solid, but he was concerned how trusting I was and that I was too generous. He told me, "Don't you realize that people lie? And when you give something to the other side, even if it's something that you and your client don't care that much about, make them understand that that cost you, and always, always get something in return." After 5 years in that firm, I quit and I accepted a job as a litigator in a smaller Oakland law firm. And then one afternoon, something very mysterious happened. I came back from lunch and I saw something on my desk. To this day, I don't know who left it for me. It was a poem by Antonio Machado, translated from Spanish by Robert Bly. The wind, one brilliant day, called to my soul with an odor of jasmine. In return for the odor of my jasmine, I'd like the odor of your roses. I have no roses. All the flowers in my garden are dead. Well, then, I'll take the withered petals and the yellow leaves and the waters of the fountain. The wind left, and I wept. And I said to myself, "What have you done with the garden that was entrusted to you? What have you done with the garden entrusted to you?" So when I read this, I burst into tears, and then I ran out of my office to try to catch whoever it was who left it on my desk. I asked the secretaries, I asked the paralegal if they knew. Nobody knew. I don't know. So to this day, it remains a mystery and a blessing. What have I done with the garden that was entrusted to me? The truth is that even though my outer life looked mostly successful, inside the flowers of my soul were dying. After 7 years in the adversarial world of litigation, I was being shaped and changed in ways that took me farther and farther away from my values, farther and farther away from who I wanted to be and how I wanted to live. And then my family, a sweet spot in my life, my partner Francie, and at that time our 2 little boys, one of them Marcus, who was 4, and Davy, who was 1, we started attending this church. And for the first several months, almost every Sunday at some point in the service, I found myself in tears. Often it was the music. I remember one time standing and sharing a hymnal right over there with a woman who I didn't know. We were singing the hymn, "Bring Many Names." Strong Mother God, working night and day, planning all the wonders of creation. Warm Father God, hugging every child, feeling all the strains of human living. As I sang these words, I started to cry, and I was so embarrassed to see my tears plop down on the page of the hymn. And I was so choked up by then I could barely sing. Old aching God, gray with endless care, calmly piercing evil's new disguises. And then I saw tears dropping on the other side of the page. And I realized that this stranger that I was standing next to sharing a hymn was crying too. Young, growing God, eager still to know, willing to be changed by what you've started. Great living God, never fully known, joyful darkness far beyond our seeing. So when the song was over, we put down the hymnal and we looked at each other. Both of our eyes were gleaming still with tears, and we hugged. And this is why I became a UU minister. It was moments like this. Because being part of this congregation transformed me. It met my longing to be authentic and vulnerable, and to recognize the divine spark in everyone. It shaped me and showed me the meaning of power, of being part of a faith community that shared my values. And it has connected me with remarkable human beings. That's you all, and others. I chose to become a UU minister so that I could support other seekers like me in their spiritual journeys and help to create UU communities like the one that I experienced here. Over time, I grew to trust the values and vision of this living faith to guide me, my North Star, as I follow my path with a heart. I count on my morning spiritual practice and my colleagues, and from members of the congregations that I have relationships with. So, what I want to do with my wild and precious life, you help me figure that out. How I can tend the garden that has been entrusted to me. As with everything human, sometimes I've been disappointed and lost faith. And I even have felt betrayed by some of my UU colleagues and by some of the UU institutions. But still, I choose to stay. I'm committed to stay at the table and do my part to grow our collective garden of joy and justice in this imperfect world. I'm committed to serve the beautiful mission and vision of this congregation, to build a beloved community within and beyond these walls. And I know it isn't easy to create and sustain a culture of trust, but we need it. We need it to do the hard, often uncomfortable, worthy work of justice with love at the center. When we feel hurt or betrayed, our hearts harden. We may feel angry, unforgiving, blaming those who hurt us. But I need to tell you, and I need to remind myself, that when we're hurt, that we must somehow find a way to process our pain, to talk with the person who hurt us, to forgive ourselves and each other, and to begin again and again and again in our community, to begin again and again and again in love. So I'd like to close with an invitation, which of course you're welcome to accept or reject. I'm going to read a poem called First Lesson by Philip Booth, and I invite you to close your eyes and allow yourself, at least for this moment, to let go and trust. Lie back, child. Let your heart be tipped back in the cup of my hand. Gently, and I will hold you. Spread your arms wide, lie out on the stream and look high at the gulls. A dead man's float is face down. You will dive and swim soon enough where the tidewater ebbs to the sea. Child, believe me, when you tire on the long thrash to your island, lie up and survive. As you float now, where I held you and let go, remember when fear cramps your heart, what I told you. Lie gently and wide to the light year stars. Lie back, and the sea will hold you. Lie back, and the sea will hold you. So may it be so. I trust you. You can let me know whether or not I have earned your trust, but I'll say one more thing, which is that I love you. Blessed be. Today, after the service, the new Immigration Justice Team will have its first gathering during coffee hour. So if you're interested in being part of the sanctuary movement activities, please join their table in Venti Hall, which is where we'll have coffee hour. And then did you know today is also a listening Sunday? So to build community, our congregation is engaged in a listening campaign. And the goal of the campaign is basically to get to know each other more deeply, and also to make it easier for newer congregants and youth to be drawn more to the center of this church. So if you would like to be part of the project, either as a listener or as someone who would like to be listened to, join us in the Star King room. You'll see it, probably follow the crowd after the service today. And so we can listen to you today, or we can sign you up to be listened to another day. And then this Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom, there will be an LGBTQ+ and allies meeting to explore opportunities for advocacy work together as a beloved church community. So you can find the Zoom link to that meeting on our church website calendar or in last week's Chalice Chatter. And you could also connect with Martha Silverspring, who's one of our ushers today. Thank you, Martha. She's in the back there. And then next Sunday is our annual congregational meeting. It will be a shortened service, about maybe 20 minutes, and then we'll stay in Hamilton here for our meeting at 11 a.m. Everyone is invited to join, and those of you who are members will be asked to vote on agenda items that will include bylaws and elections of new board members. We need a quorum of voting members to hold the meeting, so please be sure to join either in person or online. And then last, the popular annual Women's Retreat will be happening again in the Redwood Glen Retreat Center. It's going to be this summer, August 22nd to 24th. That's my birthday. Please save the date and keep an ear out for when registration opens.
Our offering today will be shared with the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity.
So pop up the fire, hold it up. And ushers, please come forward to receive the offering. Let's bless the offering with the words on the screen. To the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community, we dedicate ourselves and these our offerings. We have one more hymn if you want to rise and sing Love Will Guide Us. And by the way, well done. It's, you know, when you spring forward, you don't know whether people are going to make it to church, but you did. Yay! Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love must guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Now you extinguish the chalice word.
As we extinguish the chalice, we go forth. As we go forth, may we have the courage, the courageous effort to trust love once again.
Amen. So if you want to face one another, look into the eyes of your fellow congregants. And what I have to say for a benediction is, may each of us tend the garden that has been entrusted to us. And another way to say it is to accept life's gifts with grace and gratitude and use them to bless the world in the spirit of love. So blessed be.